I'd love to kind of bring it back to the large group some of you have led in life groups here in Crossover before. And I'd love to open it up to you who have led in life groups before and just ask the question, like, when you think about leading in your life group, when you say, yep, that discussion went really well, what are some things that you would say, this is why I would say it went really well? Yeah.
I got this from Holly actually because we have like a ton of girls in our group and it's hard to rein them in. It's like we're 8th grade. And we found the discussion with the younger students went well when we let them lead. So I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and who wants to lead today? And they would take the paper and ask the questions and they respected their peers so much more than they respected me being like, guys, come on, focus. And I don't like doing that anyways because I felt silly and awkward. But when one of their peers was like, okay, this is the question, they actually had a decent conversation. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool to kind of, especially as they get older, to see the way that initiative becomes something that they want to, not just something we're forcing on them. Yeah, absolutely.
I was kind of doing along the same vein. Like when I look back on some of the groups, it's like the less talking I did during discussion time, the better I feel like discussion went because they were actually the ones vocalizing and having the room to speak and talk and develop ideas and work through stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, kind of like you touched on it, that changes over time as they mature and get more invested in it too. But yeah, just having them have the space to talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's important to create a space where they feel like, okay, I can share in this. So yeah, absolutely.
Providing verbal response is really helpful. It's not just saying, yeah, that's like a student gives an answer and saying, yeah, like saying, okay, yeah, you're right about that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Tell me how that worked out in your life. Or yes, that the scripture talks about the thing you're talking about. Giving more than just like a one-word response. Or I think has been really helpful in discussions I've had.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a difference between hearing and listening, but there's also a difference between listening and active listening. And we're going to kind of flush that out a little bit today. But that's a great observation. I think you can tell when someone just gives it like, hey, I hear you. Yeah, like I understand. And then it just kind of moves on versus the interacting with what's being said.
Right.
Absolutely. And so.
Somebody awkward. Like if you don't respond at all, it's just super awkward.
Exactly.
Like, well,
yeah. And sometimes it feels like the older kids get, the harder that actually becomes in some ways. Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts? To kind of flip the question then, what is for those of you who have led before, what are some things that you would go, man, that was a rough night of discussion, and what are the things that would lead you to go, this is what brings about a rough night of discussion? You're more than welcome to speak into. I know you haven't led yet, but you've been in life groups as well, so you're more than welcome to speak up as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like one thing that comes to mind that's not really like maybe one thing, but sometimes it's just the students and not locking in and being able to focus on it, and they want to talk about other things. And in a like leader facilitator role, that can be frustrating, where it's like I really like care about this topic and want you guys to care, but we can't force them to.
Yeah.
But it can be a frustration for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, Aaron, you talked about giving students initiative. Sometimes that can help in that area. Sometimes it can really hurt it as well. So, absolutely.
I think as leaders, our connection to the topic makes a huge difference. So if we're not connecting with what we're speaking about or depending on what space we're entering into, that can really change what we're bringing into the room.
Yeah.
And then also sometimes inflexibility to go where the students want to go as well. So if they're not vibing with the topic, maybe not asking that same question.
Yeah. I always view it as knowing when to pull the plug, but also when to hold the plug in the socket. We're gonna keep going, Yeah, absolutely. That can be a tough gauge for sure.
I think the worst is when it's just you're staring at blank faces. I'd rather have a night where we don't talk about anything Christ related and just
Yeah.
be silly and like we're just having fun and creating memories than a night where I literally can't get up to speak. And like, I ask a question and I hear crickets and I'm like, well, why am I here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I feel like I'd rather, sometimes they do just need, especially when they're younger, they just need to let off some steam and make some funny memories.
Yeah.
But when it's like, do they hate me? Do they not like each other? Like, what is it? Is this setting uncomfortable? And there's just like not much you can do to fix it.
Yeah.
That's like a fail, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can just not only feel like a failed night, it can feel like I'm doing something wrong too. It'd be like, what am I, like, if I've been 3 weeks in a row and every single week I'm just getting blank stares, it's like, is that me? Like, is that them? Am I not doing something well? And so, yeah, there can be a lot of second guessing abilities in that as well. Yeah. What's for you?
With nights that aren't going great.
Poorly.
Well, I would say at least a common thing, wasn't too bad last year, is surface level questions or questions that just feel like they all have similar answers. And then you'll get one word answer and you're like, you're kind of right, but
Yeah.
how do I go deeper with this? Like, they're giving me the correct answer and there's not much I can go off of that.
Yeah.
So you kind of just both of the question and you guys are just fully tuned out at that point.
Yeah.
If there isn't questions that kind of stir questions or make them think, they often just tune out and stop caring about where the night's going. So
Yeah.
that's always been a struggle. It
Yeah.
often can be the night cannot be necessarily dictated by the questions, but that can affect it if I'm trying to use the discussion guide.
And I feel like I've seen that trend a lot with guys too, especially. I feel like we already know the answers. We're not even going to try to like give something here. It's like, we know this. All right. Like, and I think sometimes with females, there's a little bit more of the, like, I'll try to workshop this and I'll try to make this something, whether it's right or wrong. But yeah, I can definitely resonate with that frustration. The goal of this time, the next like 30 minutes or so, I want us to be, I want us to get two things. One, I want us to understand what are the expectations that we have in discussion. Are they the right expectations? Are they the wrong expectations? Are they things that we've kind of said like, oh, I know where I want it to be, and it's just so far from there, or is it things that we're saying like, no, this is what we are expecting? And then the second thing I want us to understand is like, what's the goal of discussion? When we talk about taking a discussion guide and leading on a Sunday evening, what is the actual goal that we're hoping to walk away from that time with? And so we're gonna ultimately journey through some ways that what it looks like for us to enter discussion, if it's just been a while or if we just need a refresher. But we're also going to hopefully hit on some of the expectations that we have for you guys. And so I would love to start there with just some of the expectations. You have a sheet right here that has life group discussion and expectations by grade and gender. What this seeks to do is break apart just a general, over the past few years, thoughts of what we have said is a fair or average expectation for when it comes to your group and your grade. This is not inspired by the Holy Spirit or anything, so there could definitely be some thoughts that you're like, that doesn't seem to fit at all. But this is based on feedback we've heard from you guys, based on some studies done by Barna, that kind of unpacks okay, if I'm stepping into a life group for the first time in the year, what should I be expecting out of my group? And I think some of the things on here, they might surprise you, especially when the younger you get. You'll see that there is a category on this called typical focus discussion time. This is ultimately talking about when we are entering discussion around the discussion guide, here is a fair expectation of time that we can probably actually sit in discussion for. This is, when we get to Sunday evenings, you'll notice that we have about 45 minutes to an hour where you have life group time. And it's just the reality is not all of it is going to be able to be used for being in strong, focused discussion time. And so what we want to talk through today is, okay, if we're saying we can out of 7th grade guys or out of 9th grade guys or 9th grade girls, whatever it looks like, we can safely say this is what we can expect. The question out of that becomes, what do we do with the rest of the time? How do we engage students well within the fair expectation of what there kind of is there? And so Yeah, you'll notice you'll notice there are some ways that we have of how to engage students well. This is from Barna itself, so it's not specifically focused on like Lancaster County students, but this is a general overview of students at this age. And so we're not going to walk through all of that today, but I would encourage you at some point, find your group, find your grade, your gender, and figure out, okay, what do they need? When it comes to me interacting with them and making the most out of this discussion time, what do they need from me in this? But I want to talk through some things that are overarchingly going to be in every group, and the first one being actively listening. And so I know, Maddie, you brought it up a little bit. What does it look like to actively listen? And I think that we have all experienced, in some sense, a time where we have been an active listener or we've experienced active listening. So I'd love to open it up to the group. What makes an active listener active or a listener?
Eye contact.
Yeah, eye contact, absolutely. It's really easy with a discussion guide to go like this, or to have it even here and read off of it, and that can be a big distraction, absolutely, in listening.
Asking questions.
Yeah, asking good questions, for sure.
Do you like repeat back what they said to make sure you understood them?
Yeah. I think it's Ed Sherman calls it like regurgitating what they say. It's like, you say something to me, and I want to make sure I actually heard what you're saying, so I'm going to make sure you hear yourself talk from a different lens. Absolutely, yeah.
Listening to like the emotions or tones that might be coming up too.
So,
Like emotions or tones that might be coming up, like tone of their voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding kind of the heart behind what they're saying in some of those things, sure.
And then how we respond to like adjusting our tone and our language to try to match and not come off as drawing. Like if someone's sharing something really personal and just meet it very monotone. Okay, yeah, great. Like
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, like you totally invalidated what they're feeling.
Yeah.
So just trying to match what they're giving as well.
Yeah. I think what we're hitting at is like there's a little bit of a dance that happens in active listening. It's not just I acknowledge what they say. And I think that can be at times some of the most draining parts of discussion is needing to be at a place where I am ready to be active and to participate in what's going on. But I do think at the heart of leading discussions on a Sunday evening, I think active listening it's honestly where it starts. The discussion guides we give, you'll get a discussion guide each Sunday evening. They're good, but they're not what the heart is communicating, right? It's the relationship that you are forming with the students in your group. It takes work. It takes time to cultivate those things. And active listening, it's one of the greatest ways to love people, actually. It's one of the greatest ways to show that I care about what you're saying and how you're saying it. And it also affirms them and allows them to go, maybe I want to share again. It could take one poor interaction for a student to go, I never want to share in this group again because I just feel like I put myself on the line and I feel like it wasn't received. And so I don't want to stack the pressure up against you guys saying one interaction makes or breaks, but I think one interaction, it can start to tell a story for that student. And so active listening is where it starts. I think we've started to notice there's some things where it comes to, and I think that it starts with body language. The ways that you are approaching the engagement with your students, it starts honestly with how you're interacting physically with them. The eye contact is a huge piece. The way that you're engaging through with the discussion guide, whether it's just reading off or actually saying, I want to spend time with you, and my body language shows it, I think is really, really important. And I think it's also it's crucial. One of you had said it is like the follow-up questions. When it comes to being present with students in discussion, actively listening means asking those follow-up questions and having a conversation in that moment with the students that are in that group. And so I think the thing I want to encourage within discussion groups and with actively listening is to resist the urge to fix. To resist the urge to go, when they share something with me, I'm on guard to know how do I fix the thing that they're sharing. I know for myself, like I fall prone to that all the time of the like, they're going to share something with me and I'm immediately thinking through, what are they going to say? How am I going to respond? How am I going to encourage them the right way? And I want to remove the expectation from a crossover side of things that you guys are the counselors for them. That kind of defines how active listening is the heart behind leading discussion rather than being a counselor in those settings. Your goal is not to send out a student on a Sunday evening fixed from their problems, but it's to send them out having been heard and having them feel like they've been listened to. And so active listening, it's a great place to start. Some phrases that are always helpful. Somebody had said to me, it was Paige or Dan, I forget, it was the statements you make, the tell me more, right? If they share something, you're like, that's part of it. I know you can do more, asking the question, tell me more about that. Like flush that out a little bit more for me. What makes you say something like that when you're asking that question or sharing those things? And so I think the first expectation that we have when it comes to you guys entering a night of discussion is to be an active listener. It's not to be a counselor. It's not to fix the problems, but it's to be an active listener. The second thing that I want to touch on is creating an environment that's actually conversational. From the groups in here, where did you guys all meet last year? Where did you meet physically, like in the building?
I met right here.
You met right here. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Encounter room, which was good, but sanctuary for a large group.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Lower level. Okay. How was it down there?
It was fine because that's where, like, for our groups back when they were in middle school, that's where we used to meet. So they're kind of like, oh, nostalgia, we're back here. It's
Yeah,
great.
that's fair.
So that kind of helped, and
Yeah.
I think it was away from other distractions too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until activities started.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, how about for you guys?
G56.
G56 room? Okay. Yeah. Just a big echoey room. It's awesome. Yeah. For you guys?
I was A3.
Okay.
Nursery.
Nursery. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. What I hope you'll see is there is not a space in this church that is the perfect space for discussion. There is not a space that you'll go, boom, plug and play. This just fosters discussion perfectly. So when it comes to the role of a life group leader, one of the expectations that is there is to create a space where discussion is meaningful. And oftentimes that actually starts with the physical way that you guys are approaching the space. And so what it is not saying is create the perfect environment for discussion. And I think you'll notice right now, like there's this space and all I can think about is I hear the water fountain and I hear myself echoing throughout the church, and there's people walking in and there's people walking by and I'm sitting this way and there was cops going by, and like there's so many things that like can break a space. But there are a few things when it comes to setting a tone for discussion and creating a meaningful environment that you can change based on the location. And one thing I would always encourage is when you're sitting in a group, part of having a meaningful environment is being able to see the people that are within your group. I know for the 8th grade girls last year, now moving to 9th grade, it's going to be weird, there's like 30 of them. And so sitting in a space like this for the first time, where you would sit like this and there's people behind people, might not be the most conducive space to me. And so there will be, at the beginning of the year, we'll kind of assign some spaces that are not going to be ideal. That's kind of the way that we're phrasing it. But to create a space out of that where discussion can still happen is really important. So one thing that's worth touching on that might be, it's an uncertain timeline. Obviously, most of you know that there's a building project happening. When that happens, it's going to open up like 15 or 16 new spaces to meet. And so some of those spaces will probably be a little bit more geared toward discussions like this. But that's probably not until, it's like a range of like from March to like next fall. So that might be something this year, but it's kind of dependent on what that looks like. But to create a space where you're able to see everybody is really helpful. So whether you're sitting in a space like this, whether you're sitting in one of the A rooms or sitting in the sanctuary, a value is just being able to make eye contact with one another. I love, Paige, do you want to share what you guys did with like the encounter room?
So it started with me asking my girls to bring like their stuffed animals and blankets. And it was great, like it was sleepover vibes. And then they were all like, well, can we just leave it here? So I don't recommend saying yes to that, because then every Sunday I would tote like 3 laundry baskets of stuffed animals and blankets back and
Yeah.
forth until halfway through the year when they got used to it. So over time, then they just got used to it being
Yeah.
like what it was. But if you had like girls, I don't know what the guys would do. You can adapt it, but stuffed animals and blankets worked. So
Yeah, obviously,
Onesies.
yeah.
wear their onesies with pajamas. It's cozy.
There you go. There you go. There's been like a switch in the past few years where we've moved into homes for all of life groups, and then we've actually moved out of homes the farther we've gotten away from COVID. And it's still a transition piece for a lot of students of moving away from like a cozy, warm living room environment to now we're in the sanctuary. Like it's huge. And so things like that, it actually does communicate like a level of like safeness within the space that you're sharing. Obviously, it's going to look different for guys than girls probably. You know, showing up with like a bunch of squishmallows just might look different for guys than girls. But think through like when you find your space, what do you guys need in order to make sure discussion is happening in a safe environment, in a place where they feel cared for. And so it might just be enough that rearranging the area for chairs is the way it looks. But it might be something like, hey, we're going to ask the kids every night, you know, bring a beanbag if you have one at home, or bring blanket to sit on the floor. I don't know, like whatever that looks like. So think through some of the things, be creative with them. The thing that we want to kind of start going towards is, what does it look like for us to get used to the spaces we're in? Because ultimately, students are going to walk into the space and be like, I need to get used to this. But we're also teaching them, you're never going to have discussion in the perfect setting, right? When they go to college, they're going to be sitting in weird spaces, needing to have discussion. So we're teaching, what does it look like for them to use their environments well?
Yeah, I'll say even like my group met in here. So we split our group into 3 groups.
Okay.
So it's just like me and 8 girls. And you'd think this spot is like, oh, the chairs are comfy, it's kind of like a living room. But we ended up moving into, I don't know what that room's called. In the like
The loft space, yeah.
No, not the loft.
Oh, C1. C1, yes,
It
yeah.
basically looks like a conference room.
Yeah.
We sit on plastic chairs, sometimes we sit on the floor. And it's so much better than this like comfy area because there's no noises, there's no distractions. Like instantly, they got more personal. Wow. It's because they felt like anybody could hear them out here, and finally we were in like a closed door room, not with comfy chairs or anything, but they could like actually talk about real stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm not disagreeing.
No,
that
yeah, absolutely. No,
comfy is important.
That's great. Yeah.
But for us, it was like you need the safety of the space rather than the living room vibe.
Yeah. So that's a great point. And what I want to get to is like the flip side of that is like the goal is not to lull them to sleep. Like the goal is to create an environment that still is getting them to stimulate their minds and to think through what is happening. I know some groups meet really, really well in front of a whiteboard in an A-wing room. Like that is something that as you guys jump into your groups, continue to gauge like what does it look like for us to meet the needs well, and what does it look like for us to care well in the space that we have. So that takes time. I know for some groups, like it's still 3 years, 4 years in, trying to figure out what works for our group. And as they change, you know, physically, but also age-wise, like as they start to change the way they process, sometimes that environment needs to change as well. And so continue to flush through that. I will always say this, with creating a space that is conducive to discussion, awkward silence is a must. Right, it's going to happen, especially toward the beginning of the year. Awkward silence is just going to be there, and I would encourage you to embrace that. Encourage you to embrace those moments where, hey, we're going to just let a question sit out there, and we're going to just wait for someone to answer, or we're just going to wait for people to actually have some time to think through this. And so, embrace those awkward silences. And so, as an expectation from us, figuring out what space and how to create a space that openly models discussion well is a priority. Does that kind of make sense? Is that, are people tracking? Is that like I don't know what this looks like still? Sweet. There is on the bookmarks that you guys have, there's a space that talks through stages of communication. I'm going to touch on that very briefly, but kind of skim through it. What that gives is it gives 4 different stages of communication that each group will go through at some point of the year, but the goal is to build on each stage. So it might be you guys had a great summer and you had tons of time together, like being present and like we're jumping right into stage 3 of discussion. But what those 3 stages outlines is an expectation of, if I'm sitting in a life group, I'm probably sitting in one of these stages, right? It might be we engage really well with small talk. We engage really well with how was your week? How are the times like that you had at sports? Those things. And it might be the only thing that you guys are engaging well with. Understand, that's a stage that we want to see groups get to. That's an important stage because you guys are building community and you're building a space where we want to make sure they're feeling heard and feeling listened to. And so that's a stage, and it goes all the way up to feelings. What does it look like for us to get to some of the deeper things that we feel and the deeper things that we are processing and wrestling through? We will continue. We'll have some trainings through the year that talk through those stages of communication, but we're going to kind of leave it at that for the time being as we kind of go through the year. But I want to get to the goal. I want to get to the goal of what stepping into discussion is. And I want to kind of jump back into groups for a second. So the person next to you, just want you to talk through, when it comes to leading discussion, what is the goal for you? What is the this is a win, or something that we're saying like, boom, this is why we're doing this. So jump into with the person next to you, ask that question, and we'll hop back in.
That's where something is going to come in. I
don't know, I think it's
what you're talking about.
necessary to understand what it is.
We've been working for 7 years, so like this is
Yeah, I think just planning and like the reality
It was like half of the first time. It wasn't me just asking a question and even if it just is going and let's have a discussion.
that could be
without
and sometimes that's
exploring
like
5 ways.
right.
It's pretty cool.
And it's out. Right.
Yeah, that's one of my episodes that always coming in.
Even if it's years however down the road, maybe they
You swimming?
oh
Yeah.
I remember hearing
Still
about
swimming right now?
that.
Lifeguard, right?
Yeah.
You still doing it?
Well, lifeguards are in the
During
industry.
the
The last time my last
3/4 of my guys are all college.
right, yeah, like
Now they're all getting their permits.
right.
I've said that earlier too.
Yeah.
Just getting them in the it could be somewhere else.
All right, let's bring it back around. I'd love to hear some thoughts. What do you guys have as some things that you've been saying? Like this is a goal for you guys in discussion over the past, whether it's a few years, maybe it's the past year, maybe it's as someone who's been in a life group before. What's been a goal for discussion?
I think a goal for me is just to be able to see that they're processing the content and thinking about what it means for their own lives. And kind of like what Valerie was saying, like you're not sitting with blank stares, or you're not just answering questions that they like know the answers to, but that they're actually like kind of doing the hard work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but especially with your group, like there's been a lot of growth in I can now see them process something and the way they're thinking through it. So I'm sure that's like something you're like, man, I'm just rejoicing as I see it grow in general, for sure. Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to close this door. are some other thoughts, goals that you guys have had for leading discussion?
They like start to make connections to like their own reading or like their own lives or even like their peers. So like someone will share something and they'll be like, oh, like well, what about this? And then they kind of ask questions based off like the questions we're asking or like based off what their friends have shared. Or even like, oh, that reminds me of like this Bible verse that I read the other day. And like things like that. Like okay, like, you can see that they're taking that to heart and then like connecting it to other life experiences or to like their friends' experiences.
Yeah. The connections, like the boom, they got this, so now they see this is awesome. Like those are huge like moments of celebration for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Share kind of from mine, there's like a couple different views of it. Maybe it's the jaded 12th grade leader. But no, just seeing like presence and seeing them show up. So especially as like 12th graders now, most of the students, if not all of them, can drive. They have the autonomy to say, I could be anywhere else other than here.
Yeah.
Getting them in the door, like that's already a win. And then like beyond that, just obviously the goal and the hope is that we see students engaging and like connecting with something really well. But then the other prayer is just, okay, God, let us just be planting the seeds. Like let truth be spoken, and whether we see the fruit of that tonight, weeks from now, or we as leaders don't even see that fruit. Like God, will you just use what we're sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the way you're talking about like praying in that light, because I think sometimes we can think that the goal is the breakthrough moments. Like it's not a successful night unless I see the processing, or unless I see the discussion, or unless I see that big breakthrough moment. But I think there's a long game. You guys are 12th grade, and you're probably still praying for those moments of like breakthrough, and it is a long game for sure. Absolutely. I think it's in order to talk through what the goal of discussion is. I think we need to talk about what it's not. There is often that like I realize I do this with my middle school leaders all the time. I think Nick does it all the time with high school as well. We'll get done tonight and we'll be like, how was it? How was the evening? And immediately our minds go to, okay, how do we gauge how it went, and what is the lens through which we are looking at success or through an achievement in this? And I want to make sure you don't feel the pressure from us that the goal is good discussion. The goal is not to walk away going, boom, they engaged, so we're good. And I don't want you to have the pressure of feeling that if you don't have good discussion, it's a fail night. So the question then out of that, if it's not just to have interaction, what is the goal? With the way that this year's teaching is laid out, I would say the goal is making sure, one, students feel heard, and then two, making sure that the Word of God is made much of. There is a lot of things within that of, you can have the most rowdy night and still make sure like we need to get to a place where it's like, hey, can we make sure that we are making the most out of this time we have in God's Word? But two, also like, can these students make sure when they show up, as Dan's saying, like it's a praise that they just show up, or as they process things, can we make sure that they are feeling heard and feeling cared for in those things? And so ultimately, we want to keep bringing it back to Scripture. We want to make sure that there is an understanding of truth each time they walk away from an evening. Whether that's what's on this discussion guide or not, I think that is where the frustration can often come as a life group leader of like, man, I know we need to get to the truth here, but we just can't get there. And I would say to encourage you guys as life group leaders, the goal is that they hear truth. The goal is that they are cared for and listened to, but the goal is also that they're hearing truth. And so that's where I would encourage, use your discernment in that when do I need to pull the plug on the discussion guide, and when do we just need to follow one of the theological rabbit trails that they throw out there, and when do we need to just have some fun together? And so that's kind of the goal from us from a discussion perspective. I would always say, Dan, I love the point that you brought up. Like, to pray for your students in the journey of discussion is huge. It is different the way that we are doing learning here from school. And so oftentimes it feels like My goal for being here from the student's perspective is just to hang out. Especially the younger you get, they don't quite understand yet that I'm here for a purpose during this discussion time. So I would encourage you, pray for your students, pray for the ways that you as leaders lead discussion, but understand the expectation from us is not that you have a good night of discussion, but it's ultimately that there is a time spent with students that listens and cares, and that the truth is being started to solidify in their hearts. And that might not be in one night, that might be over the course of years, but it's a long game ultimately. And so one discussion does not make or break the way you operate as a leader, and it does not define the way your life group operates. So please have the freedom to have nights that are worth the prayers. We're gonna close in some prayer here, but do you guys have any questions or any thoughts to add in before we wrap up? Well, please know when it comes to nights of discussion, we are praying for you guys. This has some of these thoughts just as reminders on it on the bookmark, and then this I would really encourage. This has been really helpful in multiple areas as we've given this out. Just some different ways to think through what do I expect out of my group, and how do I go into this with right expectations. So I'd encourage you to check out your group and your grade at some point in the next few weeks as we lead up to the kickoff. So. Dan, would you just close out in prayer?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for giving us the space and the opportunity to just grow in our intentionality for caring and loving people, and for caring and loving these students. Lord, you love them. Would you enable us to love them well? Would you just equip us for this upcoming year as we learn how to engage and lead well in discussion, Lord, as we just work through your word with these students, that their understanding would grow.